Okay, so this is going to be a long one, so I'm sorry in advance. But before we get into the Pythagorean theorem, we're going to review solving equations real quick. So remember, we always draw the river, and then we always do the opposite operation. So what's the opposite of something squared? The opposite of something squared is to take the square root of it. So what is the square root of 169? Hopefully you're saying the square root of 169 is 13. Okay. So let's look at B. The cube root. What's the opposite of taking something cubed? We take the cube root of it. So what is the cube root of 512? Cube root of 512 is 8. Okay, let's go back to C. Draw the river. This is squared. What's the opposite of something squared? We take the square root of it. What's the square root of 16? 4. Okay, so this will help with just kind of solving the equations down here in a little bit. So let's look at what the Pythagorean theorem is. So it's a formula, and here it is: a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay, by the end of this unit, you will have this memorized. You'll be sleeping and reciting a squared plus b squared equals c squared. What's important to know is that the c squared is your hypotenuse. Okay, your hypotenuse is also your longest side. Okay, so it's also your longest side. And for the most part, it's always the one on the slant. The A and the B, they're your legs. It doesn't matter. You can get them flipped up. So it does not matter which you label A or B, because they go in the same spot in the equation. So it doesn't really matter which one you label A or B, but just know that the legs are A and B. Okay? So let's get into some information about the Pythagorean theorem. Okay, so the Pythagorean theorem states, okay, so the Pythagorean theorem, if you don't know how to spell it, it's right up there, states that in any right triangle, the sum of the square of the lengths of the legs is equal to the square of the hypotenuse. So what that is really just saying is what this formula is. So it states that in any right triangle, so that's important that it has to be a right triangle. The sum means add. So the sum of the square of the lengths of the legs, so you're squaring the lengths of your legs, is equal to the square of the hypotenuse. So we just pretty much wrote out what the formula said. So you may be thinking, why do I care about the Pythagorean theorem? So we use it to find a missing or unknown side of the triangle of a right triangle. So you may have noticed I've been emphasizing the word right. So it only works. On a right triangle. So that's really important. So it won't work on any other type of triangle. So it has to have that right one. Okay. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty of the steps to find not the missing angle, but the missing side. Okay, so step one, you have to label the triangle. Label the triangle side lengths. Accordingly. So A, B, or C accordingly. Okay, and then you have to write your equation. So you have to do that. And then you can replace your variables with the known side lengths. Then we solve the equation. For the missing side length. And that could be A, B, or C. And then we always label our final answer. So even though it's the last step, it's an important one. So let's start practicing this. Okay, so we're going to label our triangle. Okay, so we have our right angle. Always directly across from that is your hypotenuse. So that's your C. That's always your hypotenuse. And then the other two are your legs. And again, it doesn't matter which you label, A, B, A or B. Then we write our formula. Now we know A and B, so we're going to plug those in. We know 14, and then your square just comes along, and we know 17, and we want to find C. So you have to figure out what is 14 squared. 14 squared is 196. What is 17 squared? So plug that in your calculator. What is 17 times 17? That is 289. And then write C squared. So we're in the part where we're just solving our equation. So now we have to do, what is 289 plus 196? So 289 plus 196 gives us 485 equals C squared. And now C squared is not the same as C. We want to get C equal something. So I need to get rid of the squared. And I do that by taking the square root of both sides. So what is the square root of 485? 485 is not a perfect square, so you have to round to the hundredths place. Remember, that's your second decimal place. So you should get 22.02. Now we're not quite done. We have to label our final answer. So C is equal to 22.02 meters. Okay. So I want you to try B on your own. So do exactly what we did. So pause the video and try it now. All right, so hopefully you got somewhere around 17.20 kilometers. Okay, if you didn't, check my work. Okay, so pause and check your work against mine. All right, we're going to keep on going, though, to example 2. Okay, so in example 2, now we have that we're finding a leg. So, again, we have to find our hypotenuse first, since we always label. This is our hypotenuse. Doesn't matter which you label as A or B. I always choose A as the one that's filled in, but it doesn't really matter. So now we start by writing our formula, plug in our information. So A is 7 squared. We don't have a B, so we're going to keep it B squared. We have a C now, so that becomes 11 squared. All right, fill it out. 7 squared is 49 plus B squared equals 121. All right, so in this case, since we have B here, we want to subtract 49 from each side because we always want to get that variable alone. So what is 121 minus 49? 121 minus 49 is 72. And then because it's squared, we take the square root of both sides, and we get B is equal to 8.49. And then we have to label, so 8.49 meters. All right, so I want you to try letter B on your own now. So pause the video, try B, and then check your answer when you're done. All right, so hopefully you got 18.73 feet. If you didn't, check your work against mine. If you did, let's keep on going. All right, example 3 says the lengths of a right triangle are given. Find the length of the missing side. So, in this case in A, it tells us our legs are 12 and 16. So our legs, remember, are A and B. So we're missing our C, so we have to find C. So let's plug it into the formula. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So we have 12 squared plus 16 squared. And we're trying to find C squared. So 12 squared is 144. 16 squared is 256. And C squared stays C squared. So 144 plus 256 is 400 equals C squared. Now we take the square root of both sides. So C equals 20. And then don't forget to label inches. All right, so try letter B on your own right now. So pause the video and try it. All right, so hopefully you got 16 centimeters. Okay, so we had what A was. We needed to find B because we also had C. Okay, so if you didn't get that, check your work against mine and pause. If you did, we're just going to keep on going. All right, example 4. Can you form a right triangle with these 3 given lengths? It's important to remember, what did I say was the longest side? The hypotenuse is always the longest side. So the longest between 5, 6, and 10 is 10. And then it doesn't matter which one we label A or B. So now we take these values and plug it into the formula A squared plus B squared equals C squared. If it's true, it is a right triangle. If it's false, not a right triangle. Okay, so that's important to remember. So we have our A's, so we have 5 squared plus 6 squared, and then we have our C, our 10 squared. So 5 squared is 25, 6 squared is 36, and 10 squared is 100. What's 25 plus 36? That gives us 61. Is 61 equal to 100? Hopefully you're saying no. So then this is false. It is not a right triangle. All right, so try B and see if that one is a right triangle. All right, so when I did my formula, I got 169 equals 169. So it is a right triangle. All right, so your homework is below, so get going.